Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Minority Report's podcast and digital series. I am your host, Mona Sheikh. You guys, I am still in Facebook jail, so if you're not seeing this on Facebook, it's not my fault. Write a letter to Mark Zuckerberg and tell him to stop getting his pennies in a bunch and be a big boy and remove the restriction. Anyways, I'm very excited because it's the weekend. It's the freaking weekend. And also, I have two very fantastic guests on who are also very good friends. And, I've been kind of making it a point to reach out to my very cool friends and bring them on and introduce them to my fan base and introduce them to the world because I think the world needs to get to know them. My friends are producers and writers. They have an amazing production company called 108 Production. And this is just some of the highlights of some of the achievements. They have developed two series for Roy Kapoor films. They kind of have their footing in two countries. So they're writers and producers here, but they also do a lot of projects in India. They have an amazing story that we're going to talk about briefly, if we can, as much as we can, called Billion Dollar Raja, that I'm very excited about. And they also had a mythological series that they executive produce and creative with the Adi Shankar, who's a pretty big producer in Hollywood. You guys, my very talented friends, Nayan Padrai and Sheetal Vyas, how are you?
Hello. Hey, Mona.
Hey, nice to see you guys. Thank you for doing this.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, I'm very excited. You guys, I've known you both for, 10 plus years, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've known you guys for a long time because we go all the way back to New York.
2009.
Mm-hmm. Has it been 2009 then?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's in 2000. Yeah, 2009. Yeah, 2009.
The audition.
Yeah.
Wow, time flies. Look at that. I'm still single, but Nayan has moved on to greener pastures. He got married and had two kids.
Exactly.
It's incredible. Now, both of you guys, were you guys always in the creative field, or what did you guys do before you guys became writers and producers?
I think I was always in creative fields. I was working in India with a company which is run by Ronnie Screwvala, which was called UTV at that time. And then I worked with Channel V and then a little bit with ZTV. And then I moved here and I worked with Nayan's company, which was called Cinema Media. And it was like it was like a big, a media company. And it had two big newspapers from India, Indian Express and Dainik Bhaskar. And then he had an advertising agency and a television production company. So yeah, and then Nayan and I started our own thing, and that's me in brief. And then Nayan can talk about himself.
I went to film school. In high school, I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment business. So I studied acting and writing, and I actually started out as an actor, going out and auditioning, but I didn't want to do the stereotypical roles, and I kind of just got fed up one day, and I told my agent I'm not going to go out anymore, stop sending me out for anything. And I decided to focus on writing with the goal that I would write myself into my projects, or write projects for myself and be the one man Matt Damon and Ben Affleck situation at that time, right? But at some point I kind of lost the juice for acting, and I just decided to write. Because my main thing in life is I don't want to wait for someone to give me permission to do anything. So writing, I don't need anybody's permission.
That's right.
Acting, you still need to be cast. You need, acting is so hard, and I just appreciate actors so much because what they do is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Life is hard. You make it, but it's not an easy way to get there.
Yeah. Stand-up comics, actors, it's a kind of grind and hustle. I would say that even with stand-up comedy, I feel for me, I can still go out and perform. Nobody's going to stop me. I think acting is a very different kind of grind where, just like you said, you have to wait for people's permission, right? Oh, you're going to cast me in something, whether it be a play, a TV show, or whatever. It's a lot. I did not know that you started off as an actor. Nayan, what year are we talking when you started off as an actor?
It was, I think, 96, 97, maybe even earlier, 95, 96, 97.
Look, diversity.
It was in high school, and I went to Queensborough College. I studied drama there, and then I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York. and I had like some amazing teachers and coaches that I worked with. And I studied acting for almost 7 years, even though I wasn't actively going out and auditioning, but I just kept going to workshops and doing that because it helped writing.
Yeah.
It helped me, become a better writer, I think. So that's so I've always wanted to do that, but then I took a detour in some sense, and when I started working for this company, and it kind of grew, and over almost a decade, I kind of was doing what I love, but not doing what I love, if that makes any sense. I was more in management and creative and production and all of that, but it wasn't exactly where my heart was. So, and like in 2008, I felt like, okay, it's time for me to like figure out what I want to do with my life, and is this what I really want? And then in 2009, I kind of quit my job. Sheetal had already quit, and we decided to make When Harry Tries to Marry, which was our first film, which I had written with my partner at the time, Ralph. Then Sheetal and I produced it with my cousin Bhushan and a few other people who put money in, and I directed the film. And then that's how we met you, by the way. So
that's right.
Time.
Did I not audition for you guys? I thought I auditioned.
You auditioned for us, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I auditioned for you guys. I mean, when you wrote the project, but you said that you wanted to start writing with yourself in mind, where you wanted to kind of write yourself into the project, but you ended up directing it. You didn't want to write a role for yourself in it, to act in it, or you did?
Well, I was supposed to be Harry.
You're supposed to be Harry.
But it took too long to get made, and I was too old to play Harry.
Right, he was like no longer the 22-year-old little boy, so change your plans.
Like, when Ralph and I wrote it, I was going to be Harry.
Yeah.
It just took that long.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, this is written for a 22-year-old. Now you're like 32. You can still be 32-year-old Harry.
But we had every actor under the sun that was going to be Harry at one point or the other. Like I can't even tell you.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. I mean, because you know this, and Sheetal, you guys know this, that 1996, 1995, there was no conversation about diversity the way it's taking place in Hollywood now, right? Back then, it was just like, you get whatever you get, right? I mean, I had my agent tell me to change my last name to Shay. This is a true story, because she told me to quote, and I quote, not to be too ethnic when I go out. And I was like, but I am ethnic. Like, look at my face. Like, I don't look like I'm from fucking Kentucky. I look like I'm from, another part of the world. Like, what the fuck? I'm still American. I mean, how much do you guys feel from 1995, 1996 to what the conversation's happening with diversity? Do you think it's moving in the kind of right direction, and B, is it creating opportunities for people like you and I?
It's definitely moved. I mean, there's no question about it. And the part of the reason I actually did quit acting was I went to an audition, and the casting associate told me, "Can you put on an accent?" And I don't really have a thick accent, but I can do one if I want. But that's if I want.
That's
right. I didn't want to. So I said, well, I don't know what you mean. And she's like, well, an Indian accent. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. Can you show me? And she did show me. And I was like, you know what? I'm fucking done here. I did the audition. I called my agent after the fact. And I'm like, maybe this is not for me, because I just don't want to be like, I don't want to pander. And I know there are people who've made careers out of pandering, but that's just not me.
Sure. So I'm trying to understand. I'm assuming that this casting person is non-brown person?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I wrote a blog about it. I'll send you the link. You can read the true story of the whole thing.
That's insane. So she put on an Indian accent to show you what an Indian accent looks like?
Yeah. And it was for a pretty famous film after the fact, and it was to be a convenience store owner, and coincidentally, I'm Indian and Gujarati or Kutchi, and my dad owned a convenience store at which I used to work on the weekends. And I'm like, you know what? It's too close to home, but I don't want to be Apu. Like, I don't want to do that.
That's right. I mean, what movie was it?
I don't even know if I want to tell you that, but it was.
Why
It was
not?
I believe it was Richard Linklater's film. I forgot the name of the film. It was I forgot the name of the film. It's in my blog. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
That's all good. I know you guys have been working on some really cool projects. But I mean, now that you have, I want to definitely kind of dive into $1 Billion Project because I think it's just such a freaking cool project. We don't have to talk about things you don't want to talk about, but how did you guys even end up with this project? I mean, it's just such a great project. Is this something you guys read in the Wall Street or New York Times, Sheetal? Yeah.
Well, it was happening around the time we made the film.
Yeah, and it was part of the news, and I came across the news clippings, and television was like bombasting him because he was arrested, and there was a verdict going on him, and then I was like, Nayan, I think this should be our next project, and then Nayan started digging in, and then we were just like, wow, and the things that came across, and we in fact like Nayan actually. Not me so much, but Nayan actually knows one of the big players who was arrested and served prison time, Rajat Gupta. And we had shot with Rajat Gupta for one of the shows we were doing for our previous company called NRIs. And it was just we thought Rajat was such an amazing man, which he is. And, it was just horrifying to see him being arrested, being convicted, and then serving a prison term at like the age of like in his late 60s. So that, and it's funny. It's like, what hit us was like, Rajaratnam is Sri Lankan, but the other team, the people who got arrested or got convicted with him, a lot of them are Indians. And, we Indians are known as such a superly good community in America. Like, we never are known for our crimes.
That's right.
Suddenly there are this bunch of guys.
Citizens. That's what they call us model minorities, right? That's a term that we're hold. Yeah, that's hold for us. Yeah,
and it was just fascinating to see these guys do such a brazen white collar crime.
But also the cops were Indian too. I mean, Preet Bharara and some of the other folks that investigated the case that happened to be Indian. So it's a very unique story, but. When Sheetal told me about it, I remember distinctly. It was right after when Harry Tries to Marry got released, and I was literally like in bed. I was like in a coma for like 3 months because of the entire process of releasing the film after the marathon of making the film. Because it was just a year and a half of nonstop doing nothing else, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, I hadn't heard about this whole thing because I was in a vacuum. And then I'm like, "Dude, we just made a romantic comedy. We should be moving to LA to work for Universal Studios to make romantic comedies. Like, what part of that is like, what don't you get from that?" And she goes, right. "Yeah, this is something you should read." I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll read it." And then I'm like, I couldn't stop reading it.
Wow.
There's this woman called Rumi Khan, then there is Danielle Cheesy. It's just amazing, this gang of, and women actually also ruled the roost in this one, which was like just very,
yeah.
They served prison term too. So
how was this the largest scandal that took place in Wall Street, or was there bigger scandals?
Insider trading, yes.
Yeah, it's the largest insider trading case in U.S. history. It's the first time wiretaps were used on Wall Street. It's a first of many things, and it's really a landmark case.
Wow! How much money were they trying to get, or did they got?
The amount of money they got, they convicted Raj of doing insider trading was less than the amount of money he donated to charity. Okay, so it's not just about the money. Because there's so many people involved. There were like 85 people that were convicted. It's a network of people.
Wow.
So, and right now it's very topical, obviously, with what's going on, with Reddit and GameStop and hedge funds, and it's a very topical situation right now. But the story really tells you about how Wall Street functions. Right. And it's an inside club, and either you're in the club or you're not in the club.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I think the whole thing, just like you said about GameStop, really exposed that, right? When
Yes.
when the little man wants to make a little bit money, Wall Street starts, oh, we have to step in and we have to investigate. And it's like, fuck you. You guys have been fucking rigging the system for the longest time, making your rich friends richer, while the average person does not know the inside, things. So wait, so are these people still serving time, or are they out of jail now?
They're out of jail now.
So how much time did the main guy, Raj, how much time did he serve?
11 years, right?
Yeah, Raju had 11 years. He came out, I think, sometime last year. So he served a little bit less than that. I think he served about
9 years?
85% of his time.
Okay.
Which is what you do in federal cases. And I think maybe he got some time off because of COVID and all of that. But he served majority of his time. And Rajesh Gupta also served
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So these guys can never trade again. Like, they are banned from trading. That's it.
I don't know if they're banned from trading for life. I can't remember what their sentencing was. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
But, at that level that they're at, it's not about being able to trade again. It's, you made a life, you made $1.5 billion, and then you go to jail. It's,
Steve has his lovely Tudor Place house, though, and he still has money in his bank account. Let's not be piss. Yeah.
I bet he does. I mean, I know that a lot of people try to do it in a way where they just put things under their spouse's name so that they don't come after their spouses, so they kind of stash some money away that way.
Well, I don't think he did that.
No.
It was not like Bikram Yoga, that he transferred everything to his wife's name and ran away.
That's what I was referring to. Yeah, because that's what Bikram
did. Bikram, no.
No, not like Bikram at all. You know what fascinates me is that I'm sure you guys have seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing about Jordan Belfort. Now he's a motivational speaker. He has a startup. I have a buddy in mine who's actually working for him. And I was asking him, I'm like, does he come across as a refined person? And he goes, it's interesting, there's this interesting thing about narcissists that they learn very quickly how to mimic behaviors, right? They learn very quickly how to pretend like they have remorse, but they don't really have remorse because they're fucking sociopaths, and they're narcissists. Do you think, I guess you guys have studied these characters, would you say that these 85, especially Raj, the Raj and the main people, do you think they kind of are narcissists or sociopaths? Would you say that how you would describe their behavior?
No, I wouldn't characterize it that way at all. Because it's a lot more layered than that. I mean, the Wolf of Wall Street story is a very different story than this story. First of all, not even titled properly, because the guy was not a wolf, and nor was he on Wall Street. He was selling penny stocks, in Long Island. So it's just that story.
And who goes to Long Island, Nayan? Let's be real here. Nobody goes to Long Island and Staten Island. Let's be real.
Well, a lot of Indians live in Long Island.
That's true.
A lot of our friends live in Long Island. But no, I think this story kind of stands on its own. I don't think it compares to any of those stories because it has a whole different structure and depth to it that some of the other ones I don't think have. I
think none of these guys were really narcissists or sociopaths in that sense. I think there's just a
greedy,
a need, a greed, obviously big factor, but also a need to belong. To kind of make an identity for yourself, because as we all know, Wall Street is not really ruled by brown people,
right?
Until this case happened.
Right.
We spoke to one or two people who got after they got released from the jail, and there is a remorse for everything. In a weird way, there's a remorse for everything they've lost. Divorced, lost the love of their daughter, or sitting in a single, apartment now and chain smoking. Yeah, I mean, that's happened. But sure. I don't think they're narcissist or sociopath. No, they're not that. I think they're more of, the sense, they needed a sense of belonging and sense of ruling what they could, the need, the greed, the belonging was, I think, a bigger factor in what played out between all of these guys.
But anyway.
Would you say it's more about besides belonging, do you think it's also about just having a need for power, to be like, I am in a position of power, feeling powerless to get power in any way necessary?
You'll
By
have
any
to watch,
necessary.
you'll have to watch the film.
Huh?
You'll have to watch the film.
No, I would love to watch the film. I think what I'm trying to understand is just the psychology of folks
Yeah.
like that, right?
Well-
Psychology of people like that, psychology of people like Jordan Belfort, because they're like, they're committing crimes. They're going to prison for trying to basically, fuck people over, take their money, and just be like, fuck you.
Well, I mean, there's a sense of power in any crime you commit, I think, right? Because if you
Get away with it.
if you mug someone, right,
Mhm.
you're trying to establish dominance over that person and saying, fuck you, here, I'm going to take what you have.
For sure.
You can also put on a tie and a $4,000 suit and a 2,000 pair of shoes, basically, and do the same thing,
For
but
sure.
in a very different way, where the guy who got mugged doesn't even know he got mugged.
Right.
And that's
Right.
because they're like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, whatever. I don't care about him because it's about me. So
Right.
there is a element of narcissism in that. There is an element of power in that because you're abusing your power.
Yeah.
You're abusing information that you got from someone illegally to make money, even if you don't need it, because it's a high and because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel powerful. So it's,
Right.
I think all of that subconsciously plays into it.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right.
you wouldn't do that,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm always, I briefly worked for Citibank. I started working as an assistant, got promoted to be an analyst before I became, a full-time actor and a stand-up comic. And some of the bullshit that I saw was really alarming. Before the 2008 market crashed, I worked for Citibank. I worked on the trading floor. I
Oh, really?
saw the amount of corruption that was going down. Every Thursdays, the entire trading floor, including myself with them, would go out for drinks and run a tab between $2,000 to $3,000 every Thursday. That's what they did. And they were like, charge it to the company. They were like, let the freaking company pay for it, And even when, in what was it, in 2005 is when they did so I worked for Citigroup Asset Management. They worked, it was fixed income. They, this minimum portfolio they handled was $100 million. And, let me tell you, man, I mean, the CEO at the time, Chuck Prince, had to go to Japan and go on their national television and bow and ask for forgiveness because they were selling bullshit loans to the Japanese. And Citibank got kicked out of Japan. And then they came to us and they were like, look, we can't sustain ourselves. We've been running these fucking loan, bank scam, and we gotta eliminate this entire department. And I was part of the first layers of layoff that they did. They laid off like 5,000 people. That's what they did. One shot, they just got rid of them. So it was it's quite interesting, just the kind of money and people doing cocaine at like 4:45 in the morning at their fucking desks. I witnessed that. I worked around that. I grew up in that. So that's why I think I try to dissect the personalities of these people, because those folks, they were very nice. Don't get me wrong. They were lovely human beings. They were very nice to me. But they also had a very narcissistic and a very kind of a sinister way of dealing with money and how they looked at money and how they dealt with it. So that I think that's why I'm asking these kind of personality questions,
No, I mean, and I think you bring up a great point, because I think people who work in an actual job that is, not about trading money on the computer, basically, essentially, that's that job, is trading money on the computer or figuring out how to, it's a sophisticated way of gambling, essentially, is what it is. The stock market, right?
Yeah. With somebody else's money, not even yours.
Yeah. So, there, I think it requires a certain personality to go into that. In fact, there was a time when I was going to go into acting and writing, and my dad took me to a friend of his and like, can you talk to him sense into him? Can you give him a job? And I was going to be a stockbroker. I was going to go intern and go and work in the stock market. My uncle in India was a stockbroker. And
wow.
Obviously, I didn't do that, but I think I'm very fascinated by this topic of folks who do wield that kind of. I think you did mention, you brought up a good point, that it is a sense of power.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, really, it kind of goes back to what Tony Montana says, right? Like, Tony Montana's character, when he's like, when you get the money, when you have the money, you get the power. When you get the power, you get the woman. When you get the woman, you can have, pretty much you can have whatever the fuck you want. So he's like, it's all about power, right? It's all about that. So I mean, that's what kind of fascinates me. Now, you guys said that you guys worked on an animation thing with Adi Shankar. What is that? There was a mythological thing.
Yes, that's not been announced yet. It's still in post production. But we did a rewrite, and we directed the voices on the animation. We went to India to do that with a bunch of actors there. So that was a very cool departure from what we've normally been doing.
It's a fun project.
Yeah.
That sounds. Can you tell a little bit what the story is about, or we can't get into that?
We can't talk about that right
We
now.
can't talk about that. Okay. I mean, you know what?
A lot of what we've done right now, we can't talk about much because we're under NDAs and stuff.
Sure. I mean, you guys fascinate me in the sense that, I have a lot of, Indian Desi friends who came from India or came from Pakistan, and they work in Hollywood. But you guys kind of have your footings in both worlds, right? You guys go work in India, and then you also reside here and do your thing. How different is it to conduct deals and businesses in India? I know what it's like here, but what is it like in India? Like, are people like, do people honor NDAs? How does CAA or Gersh even, or big agencies even operate in India? Because Bollywood or whatever has, the film industry there has a mind of its own. It's a this giant industry that has its own rules that it operates by.
Well, they don't operate in India.
Well, they operate to a certain extent. I mean, the largest movie makers in the world, right? Most movies in the world.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we have an agent here at actually Gersh, and we have a former CAA agent, Caleb Franklin. His company Matter represents us in India, so we're covered in that sense. But the folks that we've worked with have most of the folks we've worked with are top-notch producers there.
I think India is getting, because with all the streaming platforms coming in and, the newer breed coming in, like, when I was working in India in 1999 to 2000, it was like still very old school, where India was ruled by like this couple of producers and, a couple of actors. But I think with the new breed coming in everything, in terms of creators, in terms of writers, in terms of directors, and the streaming platforms coming in, I think people have become quite professional in India. Still, there's little dips here and there, but overall, I think at least the companies we work for have become really professional. There is like more, there's a sense of like NDA has to be signed before anything is read. A proper agreement is in place. Before you start actually working on a project, you do get paid. You don't
have to go chasing for your paycheck.
It's getting professional in that sense. And, now that I speak to my other producer friends in India, and they do tell me that now people are actually, a lot of folks do come on time. The shoots do roll in time. It's not like you're waiting for an actor for 5 days. The whole crew is set up. You wait for an actor to show up for 5 days and he never shows up. It happened to me once. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. 5 days?
Waiting for the actor.
Wait, 5 days or 5 hours?
5 days, darling. 5 days. We're not talking hours here.
Who the fuck is this? 5 days? Did they show up?
Who the fuck cares? It was Govinda.
Yeah.
We were in Hyderabad for a shoot and for Channel V, and we had to interview him, and the producers will come now. And then the night he was like, next. No, next day. It was hilarious. It was
5 days?
We enjoyed it. We got to stay in a 5-star hotel. We had no problems, right? Like, we got good food. And we were in Hyderabad, yeah. But
wow. No, India doesn't have like, you know how we have like your PGAs here, DGA and SAG-AFTRA. There's no union there, right? There's no union to protect actors or producers or directors.
There's
There
some unions.
There are unions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the industry. Like we're part of the Screenwriters Association in Mumbai. There's the producer, there's the Producers Guild. There, it's structured a little bit differently there than it is here. In terms of the minimum deals, and over here you have royalties and you have a lot more protection, health protection, credit protection. That's not there yet. No, it's not. It's more of a trade association than a union per se. But the below the line, there are unions in terms of the hair and makeup union.
Hair and makeup union is really strong. So you have to pay them the minimum, whatever the rates are. If there is an X number of actors, then they will need only X number of hairdressers on the set. So they have a pretty strong union. But some people, I think overall, as Nan said, a lot of them are just trade unions, above the line.
But do you have to kind of pay dues, or do you have to find a way to get? Or no, nothing like that. You're just like, I made a movie.
But you have to qualify. You have to have done projects with somebody that it's in the process of entry is similar in that sense, where if you have had to have worked in the industry and can verify that.
You have to have a scripts and in production and
at least in the writing, the screenwriting unit.
So let's say, you had When Harry Tries to Marry, right? That was your first film. So you take it to India, and then they say, okay, oh wow, you made a project, great, welcome to the Screen Actors Union.
I don't know how about the acting union. I have no
Screenwriters union rather.
Yeah, but we didn't apply with Harry.
We applied with some other projects we're doing in India. So we applied with those projects.
Yeah, because we were hired to write a couple of different projects. Yeah. So based on that is what
we used to get.
Got it. Yeah, I'm always fascinated by how movies even get made in India. Like, just like you said, you're waiting 5 fucking days for the actor to show up. Like, what the fuck?
That was a long time ago.
That was, as I said, it was a long time back, and now it's radically changed. It's
actually
a welcome change now.
There's an inverse of that. Actually, it's the reverse is what we felt is like the speed of things, the way people move. Sometimes, if you're working with the right folks, is extremely fast. Over here, it's extremely slow. It takes 6 months to a year to paper a deal here. Sometimes, over there, it's like, you start working basically, and it'll happen. We've done several projects now, over 5 different projects, I think, writing projects over there, and every one of them was signed, every one of them was paid, and it all happened, in a fast timeline. So it all depends on who you are working with as well, and and what you ask for and what you expect to get basically, and having those rules for yourself basically.
Yeah. Sheetal, you were mentioning about this Young Blood that's coming up. I've been watching a lot of the projects you recommended to me. Like Thappad was a very big project, which means slap. I loved it. All these Amazon Prime seems to be really kind of in the game, and so is Netflix about pulling out all this amazing Young Blood Indian content that's coming out of India. Do you think Indian society is moving in a place where it is also becoming this kind of woke culture the way we have it in America? Do you think that kind of conversation is taking place, and is there content that's being created to cater to that?
Absolutely. They have access to Facebook, they have access to Twitter, they have access to everything, right? So that's all global. And you're going to have, the extreme left or the extreme right. You're going to have people in between, so that's definitely there. And some of the sensibilities of what's going on in the West, Indians love to emulate, we love to emulate what happened in the West, right? So it's not
sure.
I really think yes, and as I said, the Young Blood, and I think it's the streaming platforms have opened up more opportunities to showcase and talk about things which were really not addressed by the regular Indian television, which was like your Star Plus or Zee TV. They never really addressed a lot of those things, and now the streaming platforms are able to do that.
Right.
And there's some amazing shows coming on, not just on Amazon and Netflix, but I think Hotstar and Zee Online.
Those are local.
Amazing stuff too.
Right. Those are Indian local streaming services.
So Hotstar is with Disney. So it's a Disney online platform in India.
Hotstar is with Disney? Okay.
Yeah.
But
Disney is like a local Indian online platform, yes.
But I mean, it's global. It's global.
It's global in that sense.
Is Hulu and Disney Plus and now Paramount Plus TV, is that all in India too, or no?
The shows are in India, but they don't have a separate, like an online service as yet.
The show, okay.
Yeah, they don't have a local service catered to. Yeah.
So how do you, if they don't have the streaming server, then how do you watch the shows? Like if there's a show on Hulu, how do you watch it in India?
But they made it. It may have been licensed because Hulu is basically licensed from other networks. So it could be ABC that might have licensed it to another platform for the Indian market or so forth, basically.
And they have these international channels like Star World and all, and they all have their different programming. So you'll see Friends on one and something else on something. So or on something,
You know, I came across this video. I watched it a long time ago. There's this comedic troupe. I'm sure you've heard about it. AIB, All India Bakjods. You guys have heard of it.
Yeah,
and this old Indian video, this old roast video popped up. Now, one of the top female Indian comedian is Aditi Mittal in India right now, and Aditi has become a really good friend. So I was having this conversation with Aditi, and it's funny because the video came up and it was Aditi doing the roast jokes. What I was watching the comments because I'm always fascinated by what people are saying, right? That's kind of like the kind of collective conscience of the people watching this, and people were not happy. They were not happy with the All India Bakjod because the concept of roasting is new, right? Comedy is new in South Asian and Middle East. It's new. This whole thing about roasting, they were just like, this is just dirty and this is just filthy, and they're passing it on as comedy. And it's like, no, you don't understand. That's the concept of roasting.
Well, the difference is, sorry to cut you off. It's Shah Rukh Khan and the bigger actors, like if you see if you see Filmfare Awards or Star Awards or whatever awards, Karan Johar, like what do they do on those shows? They've been called for it. They roast the people that are in the audience.
That's right.
Yeah. Indians as a general, like it's like izzat, like like you can't be making fun of me, right?
Reputation.
We're not very good at like laughing at our own self, like we're very self-conscious about that. And someone makes a joke about us, we can kind of like say, mere saath, this is what happened to me, and I was like kind of like this. But then if someone says, what the fuck, it happened to her like this, and you're like, oh, I'm offended. Why did he or she mention that?
So would you say that?
Weird, yeah.
Would you say like as South Asian, and I include Pakistanis and Bangladeshis and everybody else in it too, and even Middle Easterns, do you think we have? Is it because we have thin skin culturally, or it's just that we're not used to that level of roasting and that level of comedy because comedy is new to us?
I'll tell you one thing, Mona. There's someone, this great writer once, she said this, and it kind of stayed with me that, it's funny. It's not whether we have thin skins or thick skins. The thing is that, human race and, different ethnicities, we as a whole human race, we can, cry at the same thing. We'll cry of a broken heart. We'll cry at the death of a person. We'll cry at someone who's sick. But we as a human race, we are very divided on what we laugh at. The Americans will have a very different sense of humor to what British humor is, to what Indian slapstick humor or the South Asian slapstick humor is. And we all laugh at different things. Like for me, I was born and brought up on English literature, English comedy, English everything. I still don't get sometimes the American comedy. Like, like what people will, like my niece will be like laughing and my nephew will be like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And I'll be like, okay.
That's because you were raised in India and you don't get the sensibility. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. But British I would get, and my niece and nephew will be like, "That's not funny."
Interesting.
So I just think like as far as
the sensibility goes,
humor is very individual and very ethnically divided in that sense. Strangely enough, I think.
Well, we're not built. Indian, I can say, are not built for self-deprecating humor. I mean, they may do it themselves, but you don't want to be made fun of, because then your izzat is at stake, right? Like you're the moron basically that got made fun of, right? Because it may not be the way other people feel, but you would feel that way. So I don't think we're definitely thin-skinned. I mean, if that was, our whole culture is built on status, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of competition, right? I mean, even for me growing up in Pakistan, it was very much about, oh my God, did you see what your cousins are achieving? Did you see what the neighbors' kids are doing? It's always like this comparison, this constant, I feel like, an insecurity that you always have to be better than the next person, that what you are or the way you do things isn't enough. It always is this competition. So maybe in that sense that, you can't self-deprecate because Jesus, you're fucking striving and working hard to get to the next level and be better than the next person. So you don't want to do self-deprecation. Like, that's not going to work. Do you think this has something to do with that?
I think self-deprecation is a little bit different than what we were talking about, the roasting and being made fun of. Like you can make fun of yourself, but you don't want somebody else to make fun of you, and that's our culture hierarchy. There's a hierarchy, right? The caste system is a hierarchy in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Imagine like a lower person
making fun of
South Bombay, like industrial family bacha, like he might laugh because he's on TV, but it's like, who the fuck is that? Uski auqat kya hai ki meri mazak udaye?
Right, how dare you? Right. Don't you think that comedy is a great equalizer, though? Don't you think comedy is a great equalizer, and societies and cultures like South Asian culture, Middle Eastern cultures can use some of it?
Oh yeah,
yeah, of course.
We have a stick up our ass over there on a lot of things. I mean, people get so bent out of shape on things on social media, and it's on both sides. It's on the left and the right. It's
sure.
So yeah, we definitely. I think the minute you can laugh at yourself, you've already put your guard down, right?
That's right, because it boils down to one human thing. You made yourself vulnerable, and people don't want to be vulnerable, right? I mean, if you the number one fear, they did a poll and found out what was the number one fear in people, and it was public speaking. Right? That's why stand-up comedy is so terrifying to so many people, because you get up there and you make yourself vulnerable. Maybe you'll suck or maybe you'll float. Who the fuck knows? We don't know. It's sink or swim, baby. It's instant gratification. It's instant. You're gonna instantly know.
I think being an actor, being a stand-up comedian, like it's so scary. I would never be able to do that. I'd rather be a writer and get a script read by someone in one little room and get my review in my computer, and that's it. I'm happy with that.
Right. I had such stage fright.
Yeah.
That's how I actually started writing, because I had to choose public speaking or writing in high school, and I chose writing because I would freeze I was a class clown, but I would freeze otherwise. Like if I had to go and speak we had like a speech class basically, and it was
I terrifying. Don't ever remember seeing that side of Nine.
No, but then I started taking acting classes.
I don't.
So to overcome my fears, I took acting classes and I overcame it. And I remember like my first in college, my first performance, it was in As You Like It, Shakespeare. And I had like literally like 2 lines that I had prepared for like 3 months. And I go up there and I forget everything and I walk right out.
Oh no, that happens. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it was, it was not good.
Man, that's a real thing. That is a real thing. James, my dear friend James here, he is awesome and he's here for every single live stream I do. James said, does the Modi government ever interfere with film or documentary making, especially for controversial subjects?
It's any government. It's not the Modi government. I mean, they think that that's the government that's in power now, but, the emergency happened under Congress. So it goes back to the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of government intervention that's happened in the past. It's going to happen now, and it's going to happen in the future, because it goes back to what we were talking about, that we don't want to confront uncomfortable things, whether that's someone making fun of us or someone pointing out something that we don't like.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And also, like when you want to shoot in India, you have to go through this foreign thing. You have to submit your scripts and they review it. So it's like a whole department in itself. So
Really? Wait a minute. You have to submit.
foreign films, yeah.
Sorry. So you have to submit your script to who?
There's a department there, and they review it, and then they give you a permit to shoot.
Really? This is the government?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this has been through all the governments. It's not just like,
The
Modi government. But as Nayan said, it's like same thing like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. We don't want to confront anything that is our worst.
Right. I don't know how it is in Pakistan because I've never worked in Pakistan, so I don't know what it's like there. But I wonder, I'm going to reach out to some of my Pakistani friends and ask them, be like, yo, do you have to submit your, because
should be the case.
you know what it is? Yeah, you know what it is? Because I grew up here. I'm an artist here. I work here. Like so much stuff you just take for granted, right? You're just like, oh, it might just happen that way in India or Pakistan. Like you just go and you have a project, your studio picks up or whatever, a production company comes on board, you go and you shoot it. And it's not like that, right? It's not like that at all. So let me understand this. So you have a project you wrote, right, Sheetal? You wrote a script and there's conversations in there about, I don't know, whatever controversial topic is in India. And they review it and they're just like, hey, we'll let you shoot this project only if you take that out. Is that a thing?
And we have not encountered that because we got permission for Harry, which was not controversial at all.
No, of course not.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not sure. Maybe they might do that. Yeah, they might do that. But, I think people find a ways around it too.
Right. I mean,
shoot it and not, reveal. Like there's no like police sitting there behind you saying, "Are you shooting this or are you not shooting this?" Right? Like there's really no control in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just a foreign. It's the local production that are affected, not mainly by like say a Modi government or a Congress government or any other government, but with the way the rules are, and it's kind of hard for me to decipher it sometimes. It's like any person can say, that offended me or that was my, like they can file an FIR against your film or because you have offended the sensibilities, religious sensibilities or made fun of a certain trade group. Lawyers have said, oh, you're making lawyers look bad. Like, like your sensitivities are a legal matter in India, like what your sensitivity is, like your sentiment. Your sentiment.
Yeah.
Sentiment has nothing to do with law, and it's sentiment is it's subjective. It's not objective, right? So you can control content because it affects somebody's sensibilities, but like that's what's happening here too. I mean, in many ways at times, right? So
I mean,
we're all being affected by some sort of censorship, whether it be on the right or the left.
Yeah. I mean,
the movie that was produced by Shah Rukh Khan, and it was called Billu Babar.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, that's such a good
song. And then they took the barber part of it because the barbers said that, they're affected by it and it hurt their sensibilities. And yes, so that went out. Then there was recently a show called Thandav that had also issues on certain depiction, and it hurt some Hindu sensibilities in that sense, and they had to remove it.
Does that qualify as cancel culture?
The world is going through cancel culture.
Yeah.
I mean, right now,
I'm saying that particular thing, right? So what you said is a very a great point, Nayan. You said sentiment is not law, right? And I'm noticing that what's happening in it, like barber, you can't use the word barber because we're offended or you're showing us in a negative light. Now, if you bring that conversation to America, I feel like in many ways that's happening, in many ways in the creative profession too, right? For actors, for writers, for comedians. Oh, you said this and it hurt my feelings. Sentiment is not law. Well, you were offended by something, you can turn the TV off or change the channel. But that's not what's happening, right? You said something, you offended me, now I'm going to go after you and cancel you. Now, that's not the same as somebody, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, there's a comedian by the name of Chris D'Elia. He's the son of Bill D'Elia. Bill D'Elia was the executive producer for Law and Order and Ally McBeal. And, he's kind of considered like Hollywood royalty. and his son is a stand-up comic. Now when he was 34 years old, he was touring and he was trying to solicit sex out of 17-year-olds. Now that's pedophilia, right? So he kind of came out and was just like, cancel culture is trying to take me down. And it's like, well, that's not cancel culture. That is against the law. If a 34-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old, that is pedophilia. That is against the law. So that's where kind of lines begin to get a little weird and a little blurry, right? So somebody like him is using cancel culture as a defense, and it was just like, well, that's not cancel culture. That's you being a fucking pedophile. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to understand is with, Indian culture, and look, it's the same thing in Pakistan, right? There was a TV show that came out called Chudels, which of course, thanks to Sheetal introduced me to that. And I had the director of the show on this podcast, in this very podcast. And we had a conversation, and he was telling me about how people were getting offended, right? And they were trying to cancel the show altogether. So it almost feels like it's kind of like maybe that same kind of sentiment that's coming to America. I mean, what are your thoughts? Because you were mentioning watching Bill Maher last week about cancel culture.
Well, first of all, I tried to register a title. In India, you have to register titles. Like, that's the thing over there.
Okay.
So I tried to register a title called Churels like in 2007 or 8. I had an idea for it. And I forgot the association where you have to submit it. They sent me a letter back saying that that's a vulgar title, and they refused to register it. So I'm afraid that he got it registered. But
it's a vulgar title that you can't register.
No.
Interesting. Well, because this project, Churels, is an Indian production. It's an, it's an
TV's production. It's a Z network, like a Z online production.
Interesting. So do you think the laws have changed, or their kind of view on that word maybe changed after 10 years or 15 years? So they're like, oh, sure, we'll register Churels now.
Yeah, I think so. I think, as I said, it's like new little, like, the freshness is coming in. So yes, the things are changing rapidly and dramatically, but yeah.
How interesting. I mean, now more and more you're seeing, like, are you guys, is your objective kind of is to make projects that are your projects, your TVs, your shows, your films, that is just kind of watched globally? Or is it more kind of focused on, like, this project is for an Indian crowd, this project is for the NRI crowd or American crowd? Like, what do you guys kind of focus on when you guys write these projects?
I think television has become such a global watching experience now. There are so many shows that you would see from Norway, which you would have never seen before, or from Sweden, or like, the French show Lupin, which is becoming so popular.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching and talking about it. I think we want to make a global show that everybody watches and, likes. I think everything's becoming more universal and global. How much we try to put, boundaries on things. I think entertainment is going global.
But at the same time, it has to be rooted in whatever, if you're trying to please everyone, you're going to please nobody.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to be rooted in
sentiments.
So we do know what our core audience is. So if we're writing a show, like we have a show that we created last year, it's a legal drama set in Mumbai. We know that that's an Indian show.
It's a hardcore, like it's just an Indian show.
It's an Indian show, but it's going to be, a lot of it is going to be in English, and it could, spill over. And it would be made with a Western storytelling sensibility. Now, hopefully that works there and it works here. There are other shows that we were one really big book adaptation we were hired for last year. That was originally supposed to be a Hindi project, and it became an English project because it expanded. And initially it was supposed to be for the Indian market, and now it's not catered to that. So it all depends on the project, and it has to, you have to tell the story in the most organic way possible for the audience that is gonna appreciate it, and hopefully it expands from there.
Right. Who is your core audience?
We don't have a core. We have a core audience of whoever writes the check, basically. So.
That's a core employer, not a core audience.
Well, when you're writing, right, your audience at that time is your employer in some sense, or whoever is going to foot the bill to make that happen. But it's something both of us struggle with, because we're both so well rooted over there, and we live here. I've grown up here, But I think each story has its own life, and it's a story that you want to tell. So there is no clear-cut answer to that. It's just we try to find, opportunities and stories that either come to us or we originate. And sometimes they're here. Like there's a book adaptation that we're doing right now that Sheetal had found. It's a wonderful series of 3 books that we've optioned ourselves, and we're working on it. And that's a methodology. I mean, it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy space, but it's global.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Eastern at the same time.
And it's going to be in English? Oh, it's going to be in English or Hindi?
English.
It's going to be in English.
There's books in English too.
Yeah. I mean, Sheetal, for you're a writer, you're a producer, you're based here. But when you go back to India and when you do work on projects there, is there a different in treatment for you because you're a woman, or it's not really so much for you?
Very honestly, I have to say this, because you're from US and you're from America, you do get the first entry pretty easily in life.
Yes, I bet.
I mean, there's this whole thing attached to, a case in point.
That is right. It goes back
to this very funny story. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I have to tell you this. This is just
please.
I'm going to write in my memoir one day. I had a parcel coming in from India, which was one of the scarves I gave you, by the way.
Yes, I love them.
Yeah, and that parcel got a tracking number, and then it disappeared from the face of the earth.
Oh my goodness.
It vanished. Like, nobody knew where the fuck was that parcel. And I was calling up my cousin, and I was like, dude, like, where is the parcel? It's like Christmas time. I need to give gifts. Like, I ordered all this, and it's an expensive stuff. And he was like, I don't know. And then I was like, fuck it. I called the Ministry of Communication in India, and I said, I'm calling from USA and my parcel is stuck. Go. Things moved fast. I got the whole list of all the parcels that were stuck because the flights were stuck because of the COVID situation. So everything was flying, and so the parcel was stuck at the airport in Bombay. But after all that, it boarded the next flight and it came in 10 days.
Wow. And did you mention that your uncle works for that, or you just...
Nobody works for that. I just randomly called up the head of the postal, Delhi ministry.
What the fuck?
That's nothing. I think that's Sheetal. Like, if you want, if Sheetal has a customer service problem, she's gonna be not like, can I talk to your supervisor? She's gonna hang up, be like, call up the CEO's office.
Here's why I've done that.
Yeah, Sheetal is like, she's like Karen X, where she's not talking to the supervisor. She's in the CEO's office.
She's like, get me the CEO.
Coming to the point. If you're from US and you have the New York LA tag to you, the acceptance and that, come, let's have a meeting is pretty fast. You can just talk someone, and it is an advantage. I must say that is an advantage. But as a woman, did I find there's any difference? Initially, when I used to work in the industry before I left for US in 2000, I think I had issues as a woman. I had, there were things which were very uncomfortable, you had bosses who were a little creepy. But now I think it's opened up. Like, there's so many women writers, directors coming up in India. And, the people you work with are also women. Like, your producers are women, right? Your co-producers are women in India. So your directors are women. So it's a different world now. But in 2000, before 2000, yes, it was a different world.
Right. James here asked, we're going to start wrapping up soon, you guys. James said, has COVID devastated the Indian entertainment industry as much as here?
On the contrary, they are shooting, they started shooting.
Screw COVID.
We're not putting our shutters down. No, not really. No.
Wait, so has Bollywood just kind of, and the projects in India just been shooting throughout COVID?
Not really, not during the lockdown. They did shut down during the lockdown, which was from May to July, August. Yeah, through the lockdown, they were shut. But post-lockdown, they opened up and they figured out how they can shoot. They went off into this isolated locations, kept the crew there. And they are they've been shooting, and you see Netflix India is going to launch like about 20 programs in 2021. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot.
No,
I mean,
no. Indian industry has not been really, there are actors flying, shooting, doing their stuff. Yeah.
But the below the line people and the cinema owners and them, they have been impacted. We can't minimize that, because obviously the folks that are in the above the line and that
Sure.
get paid fairly well, they can afford to go live in a bubble and all of that. But
That's
there
correct.
obviously there was a lot of pain and suffering that did happen, and we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, like the spot boys, the light boys.
Yeah.
The funds raised for them, because spot boys are like daily wages worker, right? All the daily wages guys really got hit very badly. So the hairdressers and makeup people, so all below the line, like Nayan said, the light boys and the spot boys, it was just terrible for them. So they raised a fund for them. A lot of actors came together, helped them. But it was a struggle. Yeah,
Did the Indian government do like relief packages and stimulus bills like we have in America? Did they do something like that?
Yeah. What's that in India? What's that, Mona?
Just trying to help your people out with a little money because they need it.
Well, they didn't even help the immigrant workers go back home, so no. Right? No, there was nothing like that, right? No?
I don't think so.
No.
There was no relief package.
Yeah, I know that Imran Khan was talking about it, like the prime minister in Pakistan. He was like, yeah, we're going to give some money out. I was like, from where? The wealthy don't pay their goddamn taxes. The fucking money's gone to corruption because your politicians are so goddamn corrupt. Where the fuck's the money at? Like, how are you gonna get the money? So I'm always fascinated by that. You guys, this has been a really great conversation. I'm very grateful for you guys to come on here and talk about it. I don't know, is there any projects or something you guys want to plug, or something that we should look out for, or follow you guys on Twitter or Instagram or whatever you guys are on?
Sure, I mean,
follow Nayan. I am.
You're like, don't follow me. It's creepy.
No, because I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. So don't follow me. Follow Nayan. That's good enough.
Where are you, Nayan? Are you?
I'm on Twitter, but I go on and off. Like, depends on the political climate of the day. But I tend to be off. It's too distracting. So I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, and Twitter, and all that. We have some. The problem is we have a lot of good things cooking, and we just can't talk about a lot of it at the moment.
I totally understand. Yeah. I totally understand.
But we are very excited for what's going to happen in the next 1 year.
Hopefully. Yeah, I'm very excited for you guys. I mean, when are the $1 billion Raja project? I mean, you guys are looking at what, the next year, next 2 years? What are we looking at?
Well, we do have something cooking with that too. We just can't discuss it right now, but there's something brewing, and that plus there's a couple of other ones. The book series that we've optioned, we're really excited about that. We have some. The pilot is done. In fact, I'm going to be reading it tomorrow. Sheetal and I have been working on it. We're supercharged, and I think the next 1.5 years are going to be. The world is going to bounce back.
Yeah. I mean, it's already beginning to, right? 12 to 13% of America is already vaccinated. So, and I think the vaccinations, I mean, Ocugen, which is an Indian company, has the highest number of COVID vaccines they're going to make.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the world's biggest, largest vaccine unit in the world is in India.
That's correct. That's correct. It's it's Ocugen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're very big. So, all right, guys. Well, this was a really lovely conversation. I hope when the projects do get made and you guys want to come and promote them, you're welcome to come back and promote them. I'd love to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us, Mona.
You guys are awesome. Thank you very much, you guys. Have a good evening. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye. That was the lovely Sheetal and Nayan. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I know I definitely did. If you haven't followed me on my YouTube channel, please do. You can go to youtube.com/Mona Shaikh Comedian. It's the same name on Facebook and as well on TikTok. I need to make more TikTok. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Mona's Comedy. You guys have a great weekend. Please wear your masks. Stay safe out there. Get vaccinated if you can. Have a good evening.